Have you ever met anyone who, on their deathbed, regretted not upgrading their iPhone? No, but there are millions who regretted not having the courage to take a different path, to love someone deeply, or to live the way their heart truly desired. And maybe you're walking the very path they once regretted the most. We often think that what we'll regret most are the things we didn't have: money, a successful career, property, or status. But when people stand at the edge between life and death, the things they once chased for years fade into a strange blur. What truly haunts them are the simplest things, spending too long living a life that was never really theirs. There's one answer that shows up again and again in studies and interviews with those nearing the end. I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. That's not just an inspirational quote. It's a confession, a painful reckoning with the life they spent nearly all their time protecting, only to realize, too late, they never truly lived. And what's even more terrifying is that most of us are walking that same path without even knowing it. And what's even more terrifying is that most of us are walking that same path without even knowing it. We grow up hearing things like, get a stable job, own a house before 30, make your parents proud. Those aren't wrong, but they can kill curiosity, passion, and identity if we never stop to ask, do I really want this, or am I just following a script? One of the biggest regrets people confess at the end of their lives is this: spending too many years in a job that brought them no joy, not because they were afraid of hard work, but because society taught them to fear failure more than regret. It taught them to tie their self-worth to paychecks, titles, and recognition, instead of asking, does this job make me wake up feeling grateful? Some spent their entire youth climbing a ladder, only to realize at the top it was leaning against the wrong wall, not because they were foolish, but because no one taught them to pause and ask, why am I even climbing? They were taught how to strive, but not how to stop. So ask yourself, are you living to rise, or just trying not to fall behind? 1. Spending too many years in a job that brings no joy. No one wakes up one morning and says, I want to live a dull life. But slowly, quietly, day by day, we begin to accept a job that doesn't make us happy, simply because it's stable, has a monthly paycheck, or fits someone else's expectations. That's how many people fall into the psychological trap of rational resignation, a mindset that convinces us, maybe I shouldn't ask for more. Psychologically, this is tied to a concept known as cognitive dissonance, the inner tension we feel when our actions don't align with our true desires. Instead of confronting deeper fears like failure, judgment, or uncertainty, we justify our choices to avoid discomfort. We stay in places we don't belong because society taught us perseverance is a virtue, but never clarified where perseverance ends and self-destruction begins. Many only realize they become stuck when they feel like they've lost themselves, no longer excited, creative, or motivated. That's what happens when you spend years chasing productivity instead of purpose. Instead of asking, am I growing each day, we ask, is my boss happy with me? Am I still secure here? Do others see me as valuable? At a deeper level, many people don't choose the wrong jobs because they had no other options, but because they were never taught how to explore who they really are. Traditional education teaches us how to work, but rarely how to uncover our core values, unique strengths, or what truly brings our hearts to life. The saddest part? It's often the safe jobs that slowly drain your energy, creativity, and self-worth in the quietest of ways. We tell ourselves we'll just endure a few more years to gain stability, but those few years often stretch on for a lifetime. And when people finally stop, their regret isn't that they didn't get promoted. They regret not having the courage to try living a different life, one where waking up each morning made them feel alive, not just functional. 2. Spending too little time with family and loved ones. There's a strange paradox in modern life. We work tirelessly to create a better future for our families, yet often sacrifice our presence in the now to do so. And at the end of life, what brings people to tears isn't the absence of awards or accolades, but the moments that could have been but never were. Psychologically, this ties into the delayed gratification mindset, the belief that if we just push a little harder, work a few more years, then we'll have time for the people we love. But emotional life doesn't work on a straight timeline. A child can't wait 10 years to feel a parent's affection. An aging mother can't wait forever for her child to truly listen. Relationships neglected for too long can't be patched up with gifts or late apologies. Once cracks form, healing them takes more than intention. It takes presence. There's something deeply human that we often lose, being fully present. We're physically with our loved ones, but mentally buried in emails, deadlines, or to-do lists. Dinner tables turn into phone scrolling sessions instead of spaces for true connection. Each time this happens, we're creating emotional distance, a gap that slowly grows into silence between people who once felt inseparable. Psychologists call this emotional drifting, when bonds erode not from conflict, but from the quiet lack of emotional nurturing. There's no dramatic fight, no major rupture, just a moment when you suddenly realize you no longer know how to talk to the people who once knew your heart best. What's most tragic is this. Society defines success by things your family doesn't actually need. They don't need more fame or fortune. They need to feel seen, heard, and chosen by you. A child doesn't need perfect parents, just adults who don't emotionally abandon them in the small moments, when they show you a drawing, tell you a story, or simply want a hug. In those final moments of life, people don't regret not working another weekend. They grieve the eyes they didn't meet, the arms they didn't hold, the laughter they missed, the moments no success could ever buy back. 3. Neglecting your health and failing to care for yourself properly. When we're young, we treat health as if it's guaranteed. We eat carelessly, sleep too little, overwork, live with constant stress, yet still believe, I'll be fine. And then one day, the body pushes back. But by then, it's often too late to live differently. The regret over lost health doesn't just come from pain or illness. It comes from the helpless realization that we once had a strong, energetic body, capable of anything, and we use it only as a tool to make money, meet goals, and serve ambition, never really thanking it, never truly caring for it. We treated the body like a machine we assumed would never fail, forgetting that with every careless choice, we were slowly losing it. Psychologically, this behavior is known as self-neglect. When we place everything above ourselves, work, people, obligations, achievements. Part of this comes from a culture that glorifies sacrifice and dedication. Part of it stems from the way we're taught to measure our worth by what we produce, while never being taught to listen to our bodies, emotions, or internal limits. Some people even feel guilty for taking care of themselves, as if tending to your own needs is selfish. But how can you love others, do meaningful work, or dream big if you're constantly running on empty? Health isn't just physical. It's your mental well-being, your sleep, your peace, your nervous system in balance. Each time we push past fatigue, hide our anxiety, or ignore a warning sign, we owe ourselves an apology. The body remembers. The brain keeps score. And one day it sends a bill through burnout, depression, or a diagnosis that shakes you to your core. At the end of life, people rarely regret not finishing one more project. They regret letting their bodies become victims of the very rush they once wore with pride. Because when health is gone, everything else, relationships, dreams, even joy, becomes painfully out of reach. 4. Never having the chance to travel and explore the world. In our younger years, we often shrug off the idea of traveling. I'll go when I have more money. I'll wait until the kids are grown. Maybe after I quit this job. But life doesn't wait for us to get everything in order before we start enjoying it. It just moves on. And one day, when your legs are tired, when hospital appointments outnumber vacation plans, you realize you waited too long for something you should have lived much earlier. The regret of not seeing the world isn't just about missing out on fun. It reflects something deeper, a life lived too narrowly, within comfort zones, routines, and boundaries we build ourselves or had built for us. Every trip we didn't take was a missed invitation to challenge the self. Do I dare? Will I step out? Am I willing to experience the unfamiliar? Psychologists call this the status quo bias, the tendency to cling to what's familiar, even when it no longer brings joy. We fear risk. We fear being broke. We fear failure. We fear judgment. But what we fear most is losing control. And so we trade the richest experiences life has to offer for a fragile sense of stability, which, ironically, becomes the very source of our deepest regrets. The world isn't just geography, it's psychology. A conversation with a stranger in a foreign city can shift the way you understand your own sadness. Getting lost in a far-off country might help you find yourself again, but we say no to all that simply because we think there's still time. Many elderly people have confessed what they regret most isn't missing a certain destination, but losing their sense of wonder. They once had the chance to witness a sunrise in a new land, to taste something unfamiliar, to live a few days with no fixed schedule. But they didn't go, not because of any big reason, but because of 100 small ones that kept piling up. The world won't wait for you. The forests, the oceans, the skies, the sunsets in places you've never been, they'll still be there. But your feet won't. And in the end, what chokes people up isn't an empty passport, but the painful truth that their soul never got the chance to open its doors. 5. Not having the courage to live true to yourself. This isn't just a final regret. It's the deepest one, because it's not about a missed opportunity or a single action. It's about your entire being. Whose life did I live? In countless interviews with people nearing the end of their lives, one confession echoes with heartbreaking honesty. I wish I had lived true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Psychologists call this the false self, a mask we wear to be loved, accepted, and praised. It starts early, when we're taught that crying too much is weakness. Speaking differently makes us an outsider. Choosing what we love might disappoint someone. So we begin to perform, first in small roles. The good kid, the successful child. Then eventually the biggest role, a person who has it all together. Even if we feel hollow inside, every time we betray our true feelings, a part of us gets cut off. Someone who loves art but chooses finance because that's what my parents wanted. Someone who longs for a slow, peaceful life but forces themselves to keep up with the industrial pace. Someone who loves the same gender but buries it for a lifetime out of fear of judgment. And in the end, they look back on their life like a movie directed by someone else. What's frightening is this. Society rewards fitting in more than it honors being real. We're encouraged to conform, to obey, to do the right thing. But rarely, so rarely are we asked, who are you when you're not trying to please anyone? Living untrue to yourself doesn't just lead to regret. It leaves you exhausted. Pretending is draining on your energy, your self-worth, your relationships. You smile when you're not okay. You say, I'm fine when you're falling apart. You say yes when your soul is begging you to say no. And in the end, all you're left with is approval, but at the cost of yourself. Life is not a performance. And if it is, it should be the most honest role you ever play, whether anyone applauds or not. Because when you reach the end of the road, the only thing that truly remains is a quiet question in your heart. How much of me was ever truly me? Life isn't long enough to live on trial. When we talk about death, we often fall silent, not because we never think of it, but because it forces us to face the hardest question of all. How have I truly lived? No one escapes that moment. But the truth is, some close their eyes in peace, others in regret. The difference lies in the choices we make every single day, in what we dare to do or never dare to try. Regret isn't just an emotion. It's a delayed sentence for all the things we once called small, put off, or sacrificed, only to realize when it's too late, they were the most important. A temporary job that lasted half a lifetime. A few late dinners that grew into an unbridgeable gap with family. fatigue ignored until it became a chronic illness, a dream vacation postponed until the body could no longer go, and worst of all, the version of us that was once bold, curious, and alive, lost in the effort to be what others wanted. We often say, there's still time, but time doesn't come equally. Some leave this world at 30, some live to 90, but only truly exist for the first 40. So stop living as if you have forever to start living honestly. The most important courage in life isn't standing up to others. It's being willing to face yourself. Maybe you don't hate your job, but do you love it? Do you wake up feeling your life has meaning? Or are you just following a routine out of fear of losing stability? Maybe you believe you're doing it for your family, but are you really present with your heart, with your mind, when you're with them? Or are you there, but not really there? Maybe you believe you're doing it for your family, but are you really present with your heart, with your mind, when you're with them? Or are you there, but not really there? Maybe you think the world is too far out of reach, but sometimes the biggest shift isn't about reaching a new continent. It's about seeing life from a new perspective, simply by stepping outside your comfort zone and listening to yourself. And maybe you haven't lived true to yourself, not because you're fake, but because you've gotten too good at adapting, too good at being the acceptable version of you, so much so that you've forgotten who you were before you started trying so hard. And maybe you haven't lived true to yourself, not because you're fake, but because you've gotten too good at adapting, too good at being the acceptable version of you, so much so that you've forgotten who you were before you started trying so hard. Maybe it's saying no to what drains you. Maybe it's taking 10 minutes to call your mom. Maybe it's going for a walk instead of sitting through the whole afternoon. Maybe it's planning a short trip. Maybe it's rewriting the dream you once had before life wore it down. These small choices, repeated, will change the way you see life. And one day, when you look back, you won't feel regret because you try to live honestly, even if imperfectly. One final note for you. If you're reading this, maybe you've thought about regret before. Maybe you've lost someone too soon. Or maybe you felt lost in a life that doesn't feel like yours. And maybe you've already realized living right isn't about living perfectly. It's about living in a way that makes you feel alive. You don't need to rush through life, but you do need to live truthfully. You don't have to prove anything, but you do have to feel like you're not wasting your one precious life. Don't wait until someone's saying goodbye to you. Start living in a way where every night before you sleep, you can smile to yourself, even if no one praises you, because you will know, today I lived, and I lived true. If you saw a part of yourself in any of these regrets, don't rush to blame yourself. We've all lived to please others at some point. We've all lost pieces of ourselves in pursuit of love, acceptance, and approval. But here's the miracle. You still have time to come back home to who you truly are, starting today. Leave a comment about what weighs on your heart the most, or the moment you began living a little more honestly. Your words might touch someone right at the moment they need a wake-up call. And don't hesitate to share this video. You never know. You might be saving someone from years of quiet regret they haven't yet put into words. If you're on a healing journey, seeking peace, and ready to live a life where you no longer hide your true self, subscribe to Emotional Healing Space. This isn't a place to become better or perfect. It's a space where you can simply be unconditionally and unapologetically yourself.